On November 10th, 2025, at 9:12 a.m. local time in the Caribbean Sea, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced aircraft carrier ever built, was moving through what should have been an ordinary transit. No unusual activity, no open challenge, just open water, steady patrol patterns, and the kind of routine that sailors know well. Then, deep inside the Ford's Combat Direction Center, a quiet alert cuts through the calm. A new surface contact appears. Range: 38 nautical miles. Bearing: 096. At first, it looks minor, a small mark on the screen, barely worth more than a glance. But then the speed begins to climb. 12 knots, 15, 22, all in less than 2 minutes. That is not random movement. That is purpose. Moments later, the USS Gravely, one of the Ford's escorts, confirms the contact on radar. Her Spy 1 system gives the crew a sharper picture. The vessel appears to be a Venezuelan Guaycari-class patrol ship, an older hull, but one being pushed hard. Its engines are working far beyond what would be expected for a routine coastal patrol, especially this far from shore. Inside the Ford's CIC, the atmosphere changes. Track Sierra 84 is now classified as an approaching naval vessel. Closest point of approach is projected at under 3 miles. No radio response, no course correction, no sign that this is a simple misunderstanding. From the carrier's island, long-range optical cameras turn toward the distant shape on the horizon. Through the haze, the outline slowly becomes clearer. A low profile, a sharp, forward-leaning bow. The ship rises and falls slightly as it cuts through the soft Caribbean swell. Heat distortion above the exhaust hints at engines being pushed close to their limit. The Ford does not turn. It does not slow. It does not react to the challenge. A nuclear-powered aircraft carrier of that size does not move aside because another vessel wants attention. But its escorts do. The USS Gravely shifts position, sliding outward from the formation like a shield. She angles herself between the Venezuelan vessel and the Ford's starboard quarter. The movement is smooth, precise, and practiced, like a chess piece being placed exactly where it belongs. Then the calls begin. Venezuelan naval vessel. This is United States warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Alter course immediately. No answer. A second message follows in Spanish. Still nothing. On the Ford's flight deck, the tension rises without anyone needing to say it out loud. Yellow shirt directors signal crews to secure the FA-18S forward. Not for immediate launch, but for readiness. Catapults are checked. Tow bars and chocks are fastened. Everything looks calm from a distance, almost routine. But every sailor on deck keeps glancing toward the horizon. Overhead, an E-2D Hawkeye continues its orbit, watching the wider air and sea picture. Radar operators track the Venezuelan vessel's course. The line is almost perfectly straight. No drift, no hesitation, no sign of uncertainty. That kind of heading usually means one of two things: a serious navigation mistake or a deliberate intimidation run. And nobody in the room is treating this like a mistake. Then the Ford's SLQ-32 electronic warfare system begins recording emissions. A faint surface search radar pulse from the Venezuelan ship sweeps across the carrier group. It is weak. It is not a targeting radar, but it is intentional. A message wrapped in deniability. The Gravely's commanding officer keeps the response measured. Maintain the barrier. Do not escalate unless targeting emissions are detected. Escorting a supercarrier is not just about sailing nearby. It means watching every movement, logging every signal, measuring every angle, and preparing for every possible shift before it happens. And now, Sierra 84 is no longer behaving like background traffic. At 9:26 a.m., the Venezuelan vessel accelerates again, pushing past 26 knots. That is well above an efficient cruising speed. Its wake spreads wide behind it, bright white against the deep blue water, the unmistakable sign of a ship trying to make a point. Through magnified optics, crew members can be seen near the forward 76mm gun. The weapon is not openly manned, but the area around it is active. Covered, prepared, ready enough to be noticed. The Ford sends one final standardized warning. The voice is clear, steady, and controlled. This is United States naval vessel. You are operating unsafely. Alter course now. Again, silence. Inside the Ford's combat center, the air feels heavier. Screens glow in the dim light. Icons move across tactical displays. Sierra 84 closes to within 12 nautical miles, a distance that leaves very little room for error if someone makes the wrong decision. The carrier still does not turn. It does not need to. But by now, every American console is telling the same story. This is not an accident. This is a challenge. And Venezuela has chosen the wrong ship to challenge. At 9:47 a.m. in the Caribbean Sea, the Venezuelan patrol vessel is now fully committed. Its bow cuts hard through the water, driving straight toward the Ford strike group. What started as a distant radar contact has become a visible shape on the horizon, growing larger with every minute. No weaving, no hesitation, no attempt to turn away. Just a direct run toward one of the most protected naval formations on Earth. That is when the USS Gerald R. Ford shifts from observation to control. The order comes quickly. Launch the Combat Air Patrol. 2 F/A-18E Super Hornets roar down catapults 2 and 3. Steam blasts across the flight deck as their engines ignite and the jets tear into the sky. They climb fast, banking sharply to starboard. Their mission clear: build a protective air screen ahead of the carrier and get direct eyes on the approaching vessel. Above the formation, the E-2D Hawkeye adjusts its orbit. Its radar sweeps wide across the sea, tracking every movement below. Onboard analysts study the Venezuelan ship's electronic emissions in detail. Frequency shifts, pulse changes, power adjustments. Every signal is captured. Nothing is ignored. On the surface, the USS Gravely moves into an intercept position, cutting diagonally across the Venezuelan vessel's projected path. The message is impossible to miss. You are not getting through. Inside the Ford's Combat Information Center, a new alert sounds. Venezuelan radar spike detected. Enhanced surface search mode. It is still not a targeting lock, but it is close enough to make every operator in the room go still. Log it, the tactical action officer orders. Maintain rules of engagement. Rules of engagement are the line between discipline and escalation. And today, that line is razor thin. Then the Venezuelan ship answers with its own display. Its 76mm bowgun lifts slightly, only a few degrees. Not enough to create an immediate threat, just enough to send a message. A signal made of steel. On board the Ford, no one flinches. This is not the crew's first close encounter, and it will not be the last. But nobody misunderstands the meaning of that movement. Venezuela wants a headline, a dramatic clip for state television. A moment it can frame as standing up to the Americans. But it has misread the situation. The Ford strike group does not posture. It controls the space around it. At 9:53 a.m., an MH-60R Seahawk lifts from the carrier deck, its rotors cutting through the humid Caribbean air. The helicopter races low over the waves, moving into position off the Venezuelan vessel's port side. A brief green laser designator flashes once. Non-lethal, measured, controlled, but absolutely clear. We see you. Everything is being recorded, and you are getting dangerously close. Inside the Seahawk, the sensor operator zooms in with the MX-20 camera. The Venezuelan deck comes into sharp focus. Crew members are visible now. Some look upward, some grip the railing. One raises binoculars, trying to appear steady. Deck crew appears unsettled, the operator reports. That is not surprising. This is not a contest between equals. On one side is a regional patrol vessel. On the other is the most advanced carrier strike group afloat. The Venezuelan captain understands the difference too. But pride can push men into dangerous choices. The patrol ship accelerates again. Its engines strain. Its wake spreads behind it like a bright white tail across the deep blue water. Closest point of approach is now projected at 1.8 nautical miles. Unsafe approach confirmed, Gravely reports. Recommend deterrence posture. The destroyer turns sharply, throwing a wall of displaced water across the Venezuelan ship's projected track. It is a physical warning. Any closer, and this is no longer a message. It becomes a collision risk with a vessel far larger, stronger, and better prepared. Still, the Venezuelan ship holds course. Back aboard the Ford, the tactical action officer watches the display with calm, focused eyes. Every second increases the danger, not because the Venezuelan Navy is stronger, but because the room for error has nearly disappeared. One wrong rudder correction, one wave misread, one nervous hand moving too quickly. That is all it would take to turn a reckless approach into an international crisis. At 9:59 a.m., the Super Hornets descend below the cloud layer. Their presence changes the entire atmosphere. The sky now belongs to the carrier group. The jets pass low enough for their sound and pressure to roll across the Venezuelan deck. Loose gear rattles. Crewmen shield their eyes. The message is no longer subtle. That is when the Venezuelan captain finally hesitates. A small drop in speed, almost too slight to notice, but the fort's systems notice everything. A slight drift appears in the Venezuelan vessel's once perfectly straight course. It is small, almost invisible, but trained American eyes catch it immediately. He's reconsidering, the Hawkeye operator says quietly. But by now, the situation has already changed. The Ford remains steady, its engines carrying it forward with nuclear-powered certainty. The Gravely holds position like a steel wall on the water. The Seahawk circles calmly nearby, controlled and unbothered. And the Venezuelan crew finally understands what they have sailed into. Not one ship, not one isolated challenge, but an entire American strike group, focused, composed, and fully in control of the space around it. The mistake has already been made. Now Venezuela is about to understand the size of it. At 10:04 a.m. in the Caribbean Sea, the Venezuelan patrol vessel is closer than any careful captain would want to be. Its engines strain. Its bow drives through the swell as if it is chasing a victory that exists only in the captain's mind. But inside that steel hull, something begins to give way. Not the ship, not the machinery, the nerves. On the Ford's Combat Information Center screens, the Venezuelan radar pattern suddenly flickers. A rough jump in frequency, an uneven spike, the kind of signal that tells every American technician the same thing. Someone at that radar console just lost their composure. The Ford's SLQ-32 system records the fluctuation instantly. An analyst marks it with a calm voice. Venezuelan radar instability detected. Possible operator overload. That is the first real sign that pressure is working. Down on the water, the Gravely's commanding officer speaks into the bridge microphone with steady precision. Maintain intercept barrier, do not alter course. The destroyer continues its diagonal track, forcing the Venezuelan captain into a choice he can no longer avoid. Keep closing on a Burke-class destroyer, or accept that the moment has slipped away. Then another report comes in from the Seahawk. Venezuelan deck gun showing slight oscillation. Copy, Gravely answers. They're losing fine control. Still, the Americans do not overreact. They do not need to. Because at 10:08 a.m., the situation begins to shift on its own. One of the Super Hornets descends from 1,200 feet to 700. Still controlled, still within safe limits, but close enough for every sailor on the Venezuelan deck to see the aircraft clearly. Its markings, its pylons, the sharp lines of its frame, and the polished face of its advanced APG-79 radar. Then comes a single active scan. Only 3 seconds. Measured, professional. Fully within the rules of engagement. But the effect is immediate. The Venezuelan radar picture turns unstable, a clear sign that the older system has just been pushed beyond its comfort zone by only a fraction of what the Super Hornet can deliver. On the Venezuelan deck, one sailor grabs the railing with both hands as the ship shifts slightly off its intended line. Another loses balance for a moment as the pressure from the aircraft's pass rolls across the bow. A third raises a hand, though whether it is a signal, confusion, or pure instinct is impossible to tell. Then the Hawkeye reports what everyone has been waiting for. Contact reducing speed. And there it is. The patrol vessel begins to slow. 27 knots. 24. 21. Its bow settles. Its wake narrows. The aggressive white trail behind it begins to fade. The Ford, meanwhile, has not changed speed by even a fraction. The supercarrier continues forward with the calm weight of something that was never going to be moved by pressure. Gravely holds its line. The Seahawk keeps circling. The Super Hornets climb slightly, still watching, still recording, still ready. At 10:12 a.m., the Venezuelan captain finally breaks radio silence. A rough transmission crackles across the open frequency. United States vessel, we are adjusting course. No apology. No explanation. No attempt to save face. But every sailor aboard the Ford understands what the words really mean. They push too far. The strike group does not celebrate. There is no dramatic chase, no show of emotion, no reckless response. Professional control is its own kind of power. The Ford maintains course, gravely slowly widens the gap. The Super Hornets climb back to 15,000 feet and return to their patrol track. The Seahawk turns toward the carrier. From above, the Venezuelan ship looks smaller now, almost fragile. Its wake thins into a narrow white line as it turns away from the Ford's starboard quarter. But the recording systems aboard the Seahawk, the Hawkeye, and the Ford have captured everything. The unsafe approach, the radar spikes, the close pass attempt, the visible loss of discipline. This was not a battle, but it was a defeat. Quiet, precise, complete. At 10:17 a.m., the Venezuelan ship is now more than 7 nautical miles off the Ford's flank. Still visible, but fading quickly. On the bridge of the USS Gerald R. Ford, the captain says nothing. He does not have to. The ship speaks for him. 100,000 tons of American resolve moves steadily through the Caribbean, carrying dozens of aircraft powered by a nuclear heart and sending a message every rival navy understands. You can approach, you can perform, you can try to create a moment, but you will not intimidate the Gerald R. Ford. Because challenging a supercarrier is not a display of strength. It is a mistake, a very big one.